After the game, there was that excruciating walk around the pitch, the lap of honour, where essentially the team were just being booed.
Yeah.
Shaun, do you feel that there has been a bit of a shift now towards Eddie Howe from the fan base? Because I just think the season has been so disappointing anyway, but I think derby defeats do hit home pretty hard. And as much as... some fans obviously look at that and think it's all a bit small time, you know, we shouldn't let those results define our season. But it matters. It matters so much to the fans. And to lose twice is just unforgivable.
We said last week that it'll tip the people who are on the fence over the other side. I haven't actually quite tipped off the fence yet, I've got to be honest. The trouble is, though, if you're on the fence, you're not really Eddie in. You're not fully behind him staying, but I think most fans are either on the fence or now.
Why are you not quite tipped all the way at the moment?
Because I was thinking, how would I feel if Eddie was sacked? And I wouldn't think 100% that's a great decision. I'd be thinking, I'm not sure about that, because like you said, where are we going to go? Should he be given the chance to try and sort this out with bidding the new signings properly for next season? I know I'd be disappointed if he left, if he was sacked. I wouldn't be cheering. So that's probably why I feel like I'm sort of...
But Shaun, if he stays...
Will you be cheering if Eddie Howe sacked?
Not cheering, no. I thank him for what he's done, give us all the greatest moment of our life, but at the same time, I don't want him to ruin his legacy. Right about now, we always talk about credit in the bank, but right about now, he's the best manager that we've had in all of our lifetimes. Let's face facts.
In all of our lifetimes?
Sorry. I didn't want to age. I didn't want to age.
You're only 35 as well.
All right. He's been a great manager for us. Is that something?
The league wins in the 1920s, Shaun.
I know we didn't win a trophy, but I do remember Keegan's great entertainment. Some good days under Bob Robson and Kenny Dalglish, so that's OK.
But the point I was trying to make is that I don't want him to ruin his legacy with us. I still want him to go out on a relative high. But if he stays any longer, still making the mistakes that he's making, then that could ruin it.
Yeah, I guess the key question really here, and I want to go to you on this, Clinton, because I know actually for a while you have banged the drum of Howe leaving, and you were maybe sitting there quite smugly after this result going, well, maybe I was right all along. But is the key question here, do you give Eddie Howe a bit more time because of that difficult summer he's just had? You know, do you give him... Because after the game, he was talking about PSR, wasn't he? He was talking about the fact they didn't make a first-team signing for 5 windows. He was talking about the limitations they have to spend and how much that's impacted this season. I'm not necessarily saying that he is right about that and that should buy him time, but what do you think?
I think if we hold on to him any longer, like I just said before, we could risk going back further. Where we finish in the league could then impact on us this summer anyway. So imagine if we leave him with more money to spend this summer and we mess up again, then we're going to go even further back. The fact that we're staying still means that we're just moving backwards, basically. So again, if we end up losing the likes of Tonali, Bruno, Tino Livramento, Gordon, that's 4 big players for us. 4 big players in the summer just based on not finishing in Europe, having a poor season, them getting tempted, they're going to go off to the World Cup, they're going to have a great World Cup, and then all of these clubs are already sniffing around our players. So I think we need to act sooner rather than later.
The problem with Eddie's PSR argument is that the last £250 million we've spent has not really been well invested. So whatever you say about the PSR argument, people look, well, what about what we did sign? He hasn't.
The only thing I'd defend about PSR, and the reason that it is valid, is that yes, we spent £250 million, but the way PSR works is that Newcastle can't afford to make mistakes.
That's right.
But Manchester United have made numerous. Chelsea have made so many mistakes, and they can get away with it. And they can get away with it. What I will say equally, the club have not helped themselves with revenue streams, because that is the thing that we need to sort out. Where's the training ground sponsor? Where's you could a stadium sponsor? Whatever.
They haven't even got planning permission for the training ground yet.
Well, exactly. Do you know what I mean? So that thing, that's where the PSR works. Now, one thing I think is that the club have let Eddie down in a lot of ways by the fact that last summer there wasn't a sporting director in place, there wasn't a CEO really because Darren Ailes was ill, unfortunately. And also then you go back to that other transfer window, the one before last season, where we signed Lewis Hall permanently, Basula, Vlachodimos. You know, it was a useless transfer window. So the club have let him down in that point. But equally, that's not what's happened. Well, exactly. So January, again, nothing happened. Ross Wilson had the easiest January of his life.
Had kicked his feet up.
Yeah, exactly.
Did nothing.
Did nothing.
And Eddie had the chance to rectify that.
I
He wanted to
agree.
wait till the summer.
No, I know.
He might not get to the summer.
I know that's the thing, and it's a combination. It's a combination of things. It's both. Eddie is massively at fault for many reasons. The club are massively at fault for many reasons. And I think you've got two choices. It either reset with Howe, so a lot of the players you mentioned leave, but also we see the likes of Pope, Trippier, Murphy move up. Players who've been brilliant for us. They are legends, but they've let them down. They've let us down this season. So you move them on, or you start again entirely, manager and the squad. But either way, the squad needs to.
The squad. We've been through this before. This is ridiculous. You cannot get your money back on any of our signings. We're going to make a loss.
But you're going to
help.
You make a profit on Tonali. You make a profit on Livramento. You make a profit on Gordon.
But no, on the recent signings, we're going to lose money. You want to clear out. You want to lose Visser. You probably want to lose Voldemort.
No, I don't. I'm a huge Voldemort fan, as I've said.
Ideally, you'd get Visser. Alanga, I don't think's worked out. Okay, too.
Alanga's not worked out, but I wouldn't get Odin or
You wouldn't get £55 million.
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't get whatever.
No,
you're going to have to stomach.
You have to work.
Yeah.
You're going to have
it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to stomach a lot.
Sean, Wisser's started one of the last 15 games. What's the point in having him?
Yeah.
Okay,
what's the point?
We're going to have to take a massive hit.
I don't have to. You've got to.
I'm afraid.
He was signed
There's
to
no
have an
point
immediate
having him in the squad. I'd
impact.
rather take the hit than have someone who's completely pointless.
It's a big PSR hit.
It is, but you're going to make that money up on. You're going to make that money up on other players who are going to leave. But yeah, because Tonali's not going for less than £80 million realistically. So that's what, £30 million profit.
Livramento, you're getting 70 million for easy.
I think so as well. So
to be fair, Sean, that would lend itself to the argument that you get rid of Eddie Howe then, because he clearly sees a player like Wisser as surplus to requirements. No, hardly ever starts him, doesn't see the point in playing him, and there's a couple of others in that squad as well. So actually, I know you're on the fence, but if you wanted Wisser to stay so that we essentially don't take a hit, you need a new manager who's going to come in and go, right, all right, I've got Johan Wisser, I'm going to use him in this way so that we get the best out of him. So does that actually tip you a bit further towards wanting Howe to go?
No, I still think he's got the capacity to sort it out. I do think this summer's difficult. Adam was saying in our last show that he wants him to get his business done early for the World Cup because a World Cup is a very difficult time for transfer windows. Time you get to the end, the ones who are really, really good will probably not be able to sign. So so in effect, are we getting rid of Tonali and Livramento before the World Cup starts? So we've freed up the cash.
I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah.
So you've got to, as soon as before the World Cup, we've got to transfer them out of the club before we kick off the World Cup.
I don't think we have a choice, Sean. I think we've got so many clubs sniffing around our players. Even after we lost the Barcelona game, Bruno Guimaraes linked to Man United.
Yeah, I know.
Tonali's been flirting with this club, that club, and all the rest of it. Tina Livramento linked to Man City. We don't have a choice. We don't have the bargaining shit that we did last season where we was going into the Champions League, we won the Carabao Cup. So now we're going to be outside of Europe now. We're going to be finishing mid-table by the looks of it. So we now don't have a choice. We're going to have to sell them.
But potentially we get rid of those three before the World Cup starts. Then everybody goes, well, hang on, I'm not sure whether I want to sign for Newcastle United just yet. Let's see how the World Cup goes and I'll come back to you after the World Cup, right? Then we get left in limbo because players, let's be honest, they go off on holiday, etc. They'll think, I might have had a good World Cup. Let's see what other clubs come in for me. Then you get into the start of the season and we're left short. Yeah. It's not an easy summer.
It's not, but it's not easy for everyone. That's the thing.
True.
So,
yeah, but we're not in the best bargaining position.
I don't want to hear any excuses about the World Cup, to be brutally honest. They've got all this time. Ross Wilson didn't do anything in January. They've got all this time to identify who they want. Yes, it depends probably on being in Europe or not. But he is very good at scouting Europe. He bought some very good players for Nottingham Forest, bought some very good players for Steven Gerrard's Rangers. I know that's different, but for what they needed, he got the right players in. Max Scott rated him really highly. Obviously, talkSPORT, not a Forest fan. So it's a big summer for him. But I just think, for me, it's just a case of this squad has reached its end of its cycle. All of the best squads reach the end of their cycles. Manchester United did it under Fergie numerous times. Guardiola's teams have reached the end of their cycle. You've got to be ruthless. You've got to be ruthless and you've got to say, thank you, you've been brilliant. It's time to move on.
That's what we've been missing, both on the pitch as well.
Yeah.
Ruthlessness. When Eddie and his mates are not playing well, get rid of them or bench them. Not start Trippier, start Dan Burn, start Anthony Gordon when he's stinking up the place. Obviously, he's come good of late.
Yeah.
But that's the ruthlessness that we're missing. Whether it's with Eddie or with a new manager, we need someone who's just getting the job done, not EddieFriendsandCo.com.
Hey, sorry, are you on the fence or are you Eddie out?
No, what I am is I still want to see Howe backed, but equally I understand people who are Howe out, and I never used to be that, But no, because I'm still Howe in. But I think it's a case of it needs to be I need to see from him ruthlessness in the summer. I need him to say, Nick Pope, thank you, goodbye. Kieran Trippier, thank you, goodbye. Dan Burn, maybe, thank you, goodbye. Genuinely.
I think it's been part of a wider problem because the last sporting director, Paul Mitchell, who, made a few mistakes, let's be honest, and I think when a lot of fans look back on his time, they're quite scathing. Obviously, not giving Isak a new contract, for example. But also at the time, and the comments were a bit misjudged and probably came at the wrong time.
He was right in the end, he has proved.
But he said that they don't operate like a normal club or a proper club, and he is right. And the issue has been, for so long, is that Newcastle's policy was basically to just hold on to all of their star players. As soon as you get someone who kicks up a fuss and wants to leave, like Alexander Isak, that just comes tumbling down, because what you're left with, like you've pointed out, Jack, is the likes of Nick Pope, Dan Burn, Trippier. It's all good as saying that we should have been ruthless, but there wasn't the capacity to sign other players. And we can sit here and moan about PSR all day. But even if you look at a club like Aston Villa, they weren't afraid to sell a few of their players and make a bit of a profit.
Joe Willock in January. We got £20 million for Fulham.
Fulham 20 million bid, wasn't it?
Why not sell him?
Yeah.
Why not sell him? What? Because of one good game in PSG? Why are you keeping hold of him?
But then we were arguing about squad depth. And at the time in January, we were still in the Carabao Cup, we're still in the FA Cup, we're still in the Champions League. And what were we going to bring in at that point when we were talking about the fact?
Well, you've got to have someone lined up.
Come on, loan market.
Exactly.
No.
Well, all right.
Loan market.
We're going to have lined up for 20 million quid.
We don't use the loan market.
What? Who do we bring in?
In January, say you brought in 20 million for Willock, what were you going to spend 20 million on?
Lewis Hall initially.
What were you going to spend 20 million on?
But again, it's £20 million that we're probably not going to get again. That's the thing. 20 million is going to go a long way to the summer transfer window. Now, what would you take for Joe Willock now?
I don't know.
10?
We'll
5?
Yeah, you'd get. I don't know what
Swap deal?
Clinton, obviously, you've made it clear that you're not on the fence. You want Howe to leave the club. The big question, I think it's maybe a reason why a few fans are still on the fence about all this. Who would you want instead? Who would you want? Is the grass always greener?
That's a good point, but look, the grass is not always greener, I agree with you. But again, you look at the clubs that we're trying to emulate. On this show, on talkSPORT, our CEO came on and said we want to be contending with the top 4 in 4.5 years' time.
Just on that, Jack and I were in Barcelona, and after they scored their 7th goal, I just turned to him and went, but in 4 years...
4 years.
We'll be putting
we were lifting the Champions League.
Yeah, really.
But
yeah, just going back to it, who are the names in your mind when you're thinking about who could replace Howe?
It depends. If we want to go with someone who's established, like, I don't know, an Ancelotti, Mourinho, cool, that'd be great. But I don't think we're round that sort of bargaining table as of yet. We need to have a manager who's kind of on the come up.
But any money Mourinho would come.
I would
take Mourinho.
If I was listen, we talk about putting us on a global level, about being in the conversation with all the big clubs around the world. If you have a manager like Mourinho, he can attract players. He's also recognised around the world. It puts Newcastle on a different level. People now are interested in Benfica results. You weren't taking a blind bit of notice about Benfica results before. He has the charisma. He has won the trophy. You dismiss everybody, Jack. Honestly, he is a winning manager.
Box office.
He
still is. He still is. Listen,
I think
I agree with you. I agree
Still
with you.
is. So you're just thrashing around thinking of a name. Somebody like him establishes you in a new area for being recognised around the world. Yes, you've got to deliver the results as well. But I'm telling you, he would be good.
And he wouldn't put up none of this loyalty stuff. He wouldn't put up any of this loyalty stuff. He would play the best players for that game, rather than, I'm going to stay loyal to my best mate, Dan Burn, I'm going to stay loyal to my best mate, Kieran Trippier. I'm sorry, but we need ruthlessness.
And not Mourinho's got that connection in Newcastle, so I see what you're saying. He would love it. I think he would.
I do think the fans would very quickly
would get behind him. Absolutely. I just don't think he's at the level anymore that he was.
So
I think that you would have to. By the way, I think that if you are getting a new manager, it has to be with a new squad anyway. Because at the moment, I think actually with this squad, Howe's going to get the most out of it. I don't think if you kept the squad the same, another manager would come in and get much more out of the squad. It's the squad that's the issue more so for me. But in terms of a new manager, I think Fabregas will be an exciting appointment. Yeah. Sebastian Hoeneß from Stuttgart got the best out of Waldemar, extremely highly rated as well. Like there are other.
Yeah, neither have Premier League experience.
But that's fine. Premier League experience.
I'm sorry, Premier League clubs.
I'm sorry, Premier League experience as a manager. It doesn't matter.
It does matter. It does matter. So Amorim was great, wasn't he?
But it doesn't matter. Premier League experience as a manager, it doesn't matter because it's more about the way that you come in, the way that you get the squad playing, and it's not about Premier League experience because at every point, he won the league. At every point, a manager doesn't have Premier League experience, and then they get the Premier League experience, so they can't get the Premier League experience unless they get the job. That's the thing with that. Now, Mourinho, for me, yes, was a winner. Not anymore. I think in the end, he'd blow up the club, to be honest.
I think the problem for me with Mourinho is that he's got a track record of going into clubs, maybe doing quite well initially, but then demanding that they spend more and more and more and more, which is fine, but we can't do that, as we've outlined. You know, even with SCR coming in instead of PSR, that is going to be incredibly difficult. And I just worry about it ending up being a quite combustible situation.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been trying to win the league for 100 years, right? So it'll be the anniversary next year of 100 years since we won the league title. Why do you care?
What was it like, by the way, Sean?
What was it like? Listen there, Sean.
He's a good manager, though. Why do we care about a bit of combustibility, which might give you an amazing roller coaster ride, which potentially we're always talking.
We used to that.
We're always talking about building for the future, trying to build something. It's 100 years since we won the league, for goodness' sake.
And going back to what Sean was saying,
on
a global scale, we still need to be seen on a global scale. Exactly. Eddie Howe hasn't got that pull. He hasn't. When we're going to, Far East Asia during pre-season, all the rest of it now, Eddie Howe hasn't got that draw. Jose Mourinho has got that draw. Yeah, he can pull in players that, Eddie Howe can't bring in, unfortunately.
Jack, let's be honest. The names I've seen Newcastle linked with for this summer are the likes of, with all due respect, Marcus Tavernier, Dominic Solanke.
Yeah, and Liam Delap.
Two former Bournemouth players.
Cookie was reporting Delap on it.
Do you go along with these guys? Actually, if you had a Jose Mourinho in, you might get a different calibre of player interested in coming to play for Newcastle.
I think it's possible, but I also still not sure Mourinho necessarily has that draw anymore. Not on that level anymore. I think he definitely has a draw and more than Howe in terms of personality, etc. I'm just got to be honest. Just don't think tactically anymore. He's actually at that level. We saw it at Spurs. That Tottenham team was good. That he took over. That Tottenham team was good. It was a good side. Straight after Pochettino, there's no way it should have been as bad as it was, but it was because Mourinho's not at that level anymore. But I get what you're saying. Like, I get the idea of he loves Newcastle, and it always felt like it is his destiny to manage us one day. I think that for me, I think it should have been maybe beforehand. I think it's a bit past it now.
Obviously, we've been talking about what we might want as fans and whether that's moving Howe on or not. Do you know what I want to know? What do the ownership think? Where were they? They weren't even at the derby.
It's not been the same since Davies left. We hardly hear from them. Yeah, the Reuben brothers might pipe up every now and then, but where's that TLC that we used to get from Miranda Stavely?
Where's even the backing of Howe? I feel like after a result like that, if they were reading the room, if they saw the situation at the end of the game at St James's Park, where you've got the whole stadium booing the team off, you at least come out and.
You think they've lost interest?
The manager a bit.
It feels like they've lost interest.
Confidence, then everybody starts to.
Yeah, phrase it differently.
Definitely not the vote of confidence.
Yeah. But we said this last year, didn't we, about the Saudis feel like they've lost interest with just part of their portfolio. They don't love us enough at the moment, but I think they maybe would if Mourinho's in charge. Look, I'm still Eddie to stay, but I do think Mourinho would take us into a different bracket, and the Saudis would get excited about it again.
As much as we're talking about that, do you think the club will act? They seem, it kind of seems to me as if Eddie Howe, and look, he does have that. I hate to say it, credit in the bank. I know you hate that phrase. Yeah. He does really. but
in that man.
Do you feel like they're not going to act. I think Howe's pretty safe anyway.
Alex Cook said at the moment Eddie Howe's keeping his job. Newcastle are fully behind him. And that's where I'm almost kind of like, in many ways it's actually pointless thinking about a new manager because I think the club fully back him. I think they're happy to write off this season, rightly or wrongly, they're happy to write off this season and say, we got it wrong, whatever, go again in the summer. The thing for me is, again, I just need to see that ruthlessness. I need to see a lot of players move on who've been great for us. They now need to move on. That's where I'd be fine with Howe staying. Even if Howe goes, it still needs to be a new squad anyway, to be honest.
I just lack ambition every keeper.
No, I get that's fair enough. But I just think that's what. But the thing is, it's pointless, almost pointless thinking about a new manager because the club are saying
if he stays, they need to take the cards off him, even take his own bank cards off him because he's not allowed to spend a penny. Because again,
I think Ross Wilson's going to be much more involved.
The thing is, though, you say that, Clinton, but we all know we missed out on the top targets. We all know that happened. We all know that the players we got were 4th or 5th down the list. You know, if Eddie Howe had his way and the club had been managed properly during that summer, all right, not every single one of these would have come in, but you'd be looking at a squad with Gehi, with Ekitike, with Mbermo, with João Pedro even, with Liam Delap. So why are you taking the bank cards off Eddie Howe? Because you know that they weren't his targets. All right, he sanctioned the ones coming in, I get that.
There you go.
But we had to bring someone in. We had to. Or you were ending up with Gordon up front with no replacement.
Well, we signed Jacob Ramsey, done nothing. Alanga, done nothing.
I Ramsey.
But they weren't the first choice players.
You're in a club of one, mate.
So what manager wants to be in charge and have no say on the players that come in? That's mad as well. You've got to be part of the conversation.
It's not no say, but so the way other clubs operate now is it's like a committee, isn't it? So,
but how's any other clubs got their nephew as part of the?
No, it's a fair point.
Well,
Football nepotism at its
you think
finest.
Pep Guardiola just has a committee and said, well, who do you want? If Pep Guardiola says, I want this player, go and get him, they go and try and get him.
Yeah, they absolutely will. But I think the thing is,
Jose Mourinho says, I want to go and get this player, they go and try and get him.
You're banging that drum.
No, but that's how it works. You're telling me all clubs now
Banging
sit
that
down
drum.
as a committee and all discuss who they're going to go. They don't. If you've got a particular manager with a particular personality, they have the say. They do.
But Howe has the say then. That's the thing. He had the say.
The one problem.
It's got double house, eh?
The double House stamp of approval. Bosh.
They make their transfer recruitments over dinner.
It's a bit of an issue though as well, isn't it? Because I think something that's been highlighted, especially after the Derby result, but also looking back across so many games this season, and the amount of times Newcastle lose the ball, and it's so infuriating. It looks as if this team has been built for athleticism and not technicality. So as much as we're sitting here going, you know, maybe you give Howe another chance to rebuild a team and bring in some players that are going to work for him, is that the right idea? Or is the Premier League moving on from that kind of team being effective?
Has it been built for athleticism? If we're fading every second half, they're not that. They're not. Athleticism is about having stamina to get from 0 to 90, not the 90th minute.
I know, but I think if you look at the actual footballers in our team, how many of them are actual good technicians? Hall, Bruno, Tonali, Jacob Ramsey.
That's Voltemata.
Voltemata is as well. But there's not a lot of them. There's not a lot of them.
You were singing his praises.
But Chow's a good player, but that doesn't. Yeah. He is, yeah.
It looks like we signed players for more Power League than Premier League because we gas out after 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So we need to actually start signing some players with some footballing nous behind them, not just runners that go up and down in straight lines.
Yeah,
we haven't even got that difference maker to come off the pitch, come off the bench, sorry.
Yeah, that's the
Jack,
thing.
do you think Howe's tactics are becoming tired? It feels, you know, the other thing that's been kind of bandied around is that we've been underdog FC for a while and those games have suited us. And by the way, it's brought a lot of success. It's not.
It has.
I'm not completely, you know, denying that it's worked. But do the club need to move on from that now, especially with the shift in tactics in the Premier League as well?
Traditionally, under Howe, we've always done better when we've had less of the ball. They're the games we do better in because we can be that aggressive pressing team, get in their face. That's why we get such good results against the big six. So, do you know what I mean? And that's always been a hallmark. But even probably since the start, we have struggled against teams who let us have the ball. And we've seen it over and over again this season. I think Wolves away is the biggest one for that one because we could have been playing till now and wouldn't have scored. Genuinely, the amount of crosses we were just swinging endlessly into the box to no one. I think there was that point after the Wolves game, we put in more crosses than anyone else in the Premier League and scored once from a cross. That is an issue. That is an issue. That's a massive issue. And that is a sign of a combination of rinse and repeat, and the need for something else. And that's where like an addition of an actual playmaker would probably make a difference, just to unlock those sort of defences. But they just don't have it, and it has just got a bit stale.
It's Eddie Howe's stubbornness as well, right? Because I think the last time it kicked into gear, we had a nice little run of games. We won the Tottenham game, we won the Aston Villa game. It's because he was getting a bit of stick, from the fan base, from the media and all the rest of it. Why does it have to get to that level for him to be like, oh, hold on a minute, maybe I should try something different. Maybe it shouldn't be rinse and repeat FC every single time. So why do we have to keep getting onto his back for him to change things around?
That's a fair point. And do you know what was so strange about that is the Villa game, Walter actually played as a number 10. And then afterwards, kind of, Howe said, no, he didn't. And then since then, he's moved him into the left of midfield. I don't get that because he did actually play as a number 10 in that game. I watched it.
Around holes. Why does he love doing that?
Yeah.
And again, the loyalty as well. The loyalty that he keeps showing to certain players that are not playing well. Stop it, please. He's the one who's going to end up losing. He is. End up losing his job, and that loyalty is not going to be reciprocated because the same players are still going to be there.
I have said that throughout the show, haven't I? Like, since we started, I've said that these players. I think we started with Nick Pope saying, like, look, he's been great for us. He's letting you down now. Stop playing him. And keeps playing. I'd say Nick Pope's cost us 12 points this season in the Premier League.
Who would you want to see moved on then in terms of that? If we park the kind of potential stars that might leave the club, who do you want to see now leave this squad and almost say thank you very much, but it's time to move on? I'll start with you, actually.
Yeah, go for it, Clint. Yeah.
Nick Pope, obvious one, for sure. Kieran Trippier, another obvious one. Johan Visser, we didn't even get into that. After liking Brian Brobby's post, that is a sackable offence in itself. After a derby, are you crazy?
He's wearing the number 9 shirt for Newcastle.
You're wearing the number 9 shirt, the iconic shirt, the shirt that this guy wore behind you, Alan Shearer, our GOAT.
Wish you were pointing at me, but carry on.
Our GOAT, but again, you're liking the person who's just scored the match win in the derby's post. Nah, that's a sackable offence. So those 3 in itself. Obviously, we talked about the big stars, they might leave. I reckon we might lose at least 2 or 3 of them, but those 3 in itself have to go. Dan Burn, we might add him to the list as well, if we can't pull in another centre-half as well. Fabian Schär, I like Fabian Schär, but again, having that age in defence, I know, Shaun, you're looking at me, so I'm trying not to look at you. I love Fabian Schär. Ladies love to look at him too. But at the same time, I can't have another Asian defence.
He looked good, by the way, didn't he?
That
was the highlight of the day.
That was the first Sunday, right? That was the first Sunday.
But a lot of those players, have to go.
OK, so we get rid of Nick Pope. We don't own Aaron Ramsdale, so we've got to spend reasonable money on a goalkeeper.
But the goalkeeper situation's been a mess.
Before you start.
Mess.
How much do we need to spend on a goalkeeper? I would say it's a vital part of the pitch. So what, 50, 60 million? OK, so that's gone. Now what?
But the
goalkeeper has been such a bad position. It's been a problem.
That money we must spend. That's
we
an
need
absolute,
to get that area right. The spine of our team has been lacking.
You have to have a good
goalkeeper. The spine of our team is crucial.
You've got to have a really
You can manage anywhere else.
One at a time. One at a time. Clinton, you go first.
No, I was just to say, the spine of our team has been lacking for a minute. Nick Pope, that goalkeeper position needs to be... If we need to spend 50 or 60 million, let's get that right.
Then you haven't got the money for everywhere else.
But again, that's a crucial...
essential. That is the number 1 priority because you have to have a goalkeeper. You can manage anywhere else on the pitch because you can fill those gaps, but you have to get a very good goalkeeper. We need to bring that in. And that is taking money away from what we might want to spend elsewhere.
I hear it, but again, we can probably get money in from the players that we're going to lose anyway, and we need to get that goalkeeper situation correct, because like you said, Nick Pope has cost us a numerous amount of points. We need to have a solid goalkeeper that can be with us for at least 8 to 10 years. 8 to 10 years, because obviously goalkeepers age as time goes on. We need to get that right.
Why does the goalkeeper have to be with us for 8 to 10 years? Why?
Well,
just so we can...
Because we're building for something. What are we building for? I mean,
we're building for top 4, aren't we?
Well, no, I want to win the league.
David Hopkinson, we're building for top 4.
Yeah. Liverpool, Alisson, Man City, Edison, Man United, Van der Sar, De Gea, Raya, Arsenal. The goalkeeper usually, if you get a top goalkeeper, stays for.
Need it for 10 years.
No,
you can have it for 4 or 5.
That's why James Trafford last summer was an absolute disgrace. We didn't sign him. He was there to be done before Edison had his stinker in the Club World Cup. They didn't get it done. I think in the summer, it is there to be done again. It's just that Tino Livramento will probably go the other way. It'll also cost a lot more. But I do think we should be all over James Trafford. I think he is the solution for the number one position.
You mentioned top four there, Clinton. I think it might be out of Newcastle for the rest of the season.
Just a little bit.
No, could be 7 places this season.
Top five for Champions League, but I think it's gone for
I
us.
just think that's done really, isn't it? Because actually, when you look at the games left, and I know we've been a bit pessimistic on this show, but this was meant to be the end of a really difficult run. And I now look at it and I see a game against Palace where we haven't won since COVID. I see a game against Brighton who I think have beaten us 4 times in a row. And Danny Welbeck's in form, so that's great. Eddie Howe never beats Bournemouth. And we haven't won in the league at the Emirates since, 2010, Andy Carroll? So, yeah, easy games to come and should fly up the league. I mean, the question I actually have really, I'll start with you, Shaun, is I think that, like we've said, that Derby defeat and combined with what happened in Barcelona, do you think there's a world where Howe can win some fans back and their support back with a good run at the end of the season? Or do you almost think the damage of this season's already been done? Given that, getting Europe now isn't looking
but it's
too
experiment time, isn't it? It's working out, how do I make Voldemort? I know he keeps cropping up, but how do I get the best out of him? How am I going to do it? That, to me, is the priority from now to the end of the season. Where we're going to play him. If we like, go back to putting him up front. How do we get goals out of him? What do we do? I did say way back on this show that actually he wasn't very good in the air, and I stand by that. That is still a problem.
He's not,
that is still a problem. But I get that technically he's good at holding the ball up and things, so maybe we'll get a lot out of that with him as an out-and-out centre-forward. Because I don't really see what the alternative is. I don't go for the Gordon thing down the middle. Yeah. I don't think that's a long-term solution. Certainly not for the next 8 to 10 years. So it is. It's a bit of a free hit in some ways to try and experiment and see what. Maybe there's youngsters You're usually very familiar with the youngsters who are coming through.
He doesn't like youngsters.
Maybe, but as you say, maybe if we get on Eddie's case and say bring some youngsters, Eddie might think, do you know what? I might try that.
Clinton, do you think if Newcastle finish in the bottom half, which is feasible, then the PIF will act and Eddie Howe will lose his job?
I'll be honest, if they had any balls about him, they would get rid of him now. I'll be honest, because bottom half, losing the derby, getting embarrassed by Barcelona, come on, is that not enough? You look at other clubs that we're trying to emulate, Man United, when they were having a bad run, they got rid of Amorim, brought in Carrick, look where they are now. Liverpool, again, I hear Liverpool fans all the time saying, get rid of Slot. They won the Premier League last season. These are the sort of teams that we're trying to emulate. If we're trying to do the same thing, and this is coming from the CEO's words, then we would get rid of him. Simple as.
Jack, where do you stand on it? If Newcastle have a bottom half finish, is that it?
I think bottom half finish, the club have got to surely ask some serious questions. As I say, I understand why now they're backing him, and again, but even then, I still think with the bottom half finish, they might still go, we'll just write this in. I don't know, but I think it's just literally because of the way it's gone. Yeah.
I'm going to end up walking out. Seriously, this credit in the bank business needs to stop. How long can he have that? He's going to have that on his tombstone. I don't wish him dead, by the way, but on his tombstone. Credit in the bank, Carabao Cup, no.
You know what?
No, but
because you're a youngster.
Yeah.
You're a youngster, so credit in the bank means much more to us older ones because we'd never won anything. And I can vaguely remember us winning the 1969 Fairs Cup. Vaguely. I wasn't there. And I do not remember the 1927. But credit in the bank means a lot to older supporters because we'd won nothing. And I do accept that we want more ambition and we want to try and win league titles, etc. But that was an immense day, far more important to us than many, many other clubs. It marked one of the best days, it was the best day of my life supporting Newcastle United, and that's why he's got credit in the bank. For people who went through the 70s and times some of the times which were difficult in the early 80s as well, it's hard to put that into perspective for you youngsters. Right? So therefore, we're tempted to give Eddie a bit more time because of that feeling.
All I'm going to say is this, is nice guys finish last. If we keep having the nice guy Eddie Howe because he smiles, he looks good on camera, then we're going to end up getting nowhere quick. Not to where we want to get to anyway. You know, we've won the Carabao Cup. Yes, he's got credit in the bank, but again, we're sticking by him because of loyalty. And again, the same loyalty that Eddie Howe shown to his team is letting him down. So again, it's just loyal, and it's not going to get us to where we want to get to.
It's an absolutely fair point. The thing is, I wouldn't actually be surprised if we end the season well, because now this is what Eddie Howe's good at, where he's got that Monday to Friday to train the players week to week. I wouldn't be surprised if we end the season well.